Welcome to Profiletraders. This is Reza and you're listening to my market analysis for Friday the 13th. If we go back and review the last recap, I very clearly told you that in the very short term, due to these two back-to-back close at the low, market was in a very bad situation and on a short-term downtrend. And I suggested that any kind of a push to the upside should be used as a selling point, because we have had 250 points of a rally absolutely based on nothing, based on nothing. We went up 250 points, and now that they made their money, they manipulated it like kings. They cashed multi-hundred millions of dollars. Now there is no more interest on supporting the market, and we are coming down, and we are coming down quite hard and fast. Now, of course, you need to add to this the very sad events which took place in Paris last night. A complete total failure of the Western powers to contain these barbaric savages running around the Middle East and causing chaos. And the ramification and the impacts of the attacks will be significant on the markets and on the European economies. And God forbid, if we see few more of these attacks in other nations, it could have an absolute devastating effect for the European economy. Because there is one thing that is absolutely damaging and devastating, as we have seen it, is when terror attacks put fear into the mind of consumers, and consumers start to be on the defensive and hoard their money because they don't feel safe about what is going on. Therefore, from here on, what I am expecting is that we will see most likely a very sharp down open on Sunday. But I can give you my word that every single central bank in the world, from the Chinese to Yellen the villain, to Draghi the dragster, to Xing Zhangzong of China, all of them will spend trillions of dollars to buy back the market like animals. If you believe that there will be a massive cash out possibility on whoever terrorist has shorted this market ahead of this event that will make billions of dollars on the drop, you are, in my opinion, respectfully dreaming. They will not let this market collapse. An open to the downside will happen, but if my guess is right, we will see a fury of buying that will kick in order to reverse it to the upside. So one must be very, very careful not to short or not to sell into the weak open of Sunday, because you will be playing against every single central banker that is already preparing as we speak how to counter the potential catastrophic opening on Sunday. Therefore, making any kind of projections moving forward with this event in hand is useless. You have to monitor it as it will develop. However, based on this development of Friday, it was yet another disastrous close at the very low, very long, narrow profile down, indication of no question trend to the downside. First level of resistance comes in at 2025.5. after that we are going to possibly go see 2033.5, and then above that we have a POC at 2042. On the downside we need to see how market will react, but the very first serious area of support will be the touch of this trend line. So if by any chance there is a catastrophic open towards 1950 area, in my opinion that area will be bought extremely aggressively, and from that point on we should see a bounce. So also, if you remember when we were up there, I told you that market was in a sweet spot. I told you that the analysts are in bed with the corporations, the central bank is in bed with the market, and there is absolutely no fear whatsoever from what the Fed can or cannot do, because nobody believes in the Fed anymore, and everybody believes that they have completely lost control over the situation. And if you recall, I told you, in cases as such where you have such a sweet spot, the only thing that will derail the market is an outside event that is not predictable and not in the control on anybody's projections. And that's exactly what is happening now. Now, this abuse was so grotesque that an outside event will crash its back. But as it will crash its back, we are expecting the Federal Reserves or central banks to heavily step in and try to manipulate the drop, but they can tame it down short term. Big term, this terrorist from ISIS is a problem, and I don't care how much the chief clown will come on TV and say that he has ISIS contained. Unfortunately, the reality is that they are far from being contained, and as we saw at Friday, they are in a very strong position to cause extreme damage upon the free societies around the globe. Now for crude, I saw a very terrifying report, and that terrifying report came on Friday by the IAEA, saying that we have an excess of 3.2 billion with a B barrels of oil out there. Billions of barrels of oil out there, not knowing where to go be delivered. That is the reason why you saw this cataclysmic 8-point collapse of price. And looks to me that it is going to come towards 39.30 and eventually even break this level and go further down. This is a very serious amount of barrels that is produced on ships, not knowing where to go be delivered. And if we add that to the global slowdown that we have, definitely there is nothing looking bullish for crude, unless these events of Paris will create a very rude, ruthless, shrewd response from the West. But judging from the clowns that are in charge of any Western country, I doubt that nothing will be done. But if they take a decision to go in and exterminate these cockroaches and a full-blown war goes on the Middle East, then of course that may impact the price of crude. But as of right now, based on supply and demand, the picture is looking very weak. Therefore, after an 8-point drop, we could possibly see a little bit of an oversold bounce, but any oversold bounce should be sold into it until proven otherwise. The real first level of support for the market comes in at 41.80. If we do get a bounce towards that area, it will encounter its first level of resistance. Second level of resistance from 41.80 will be 42.20. Past 42.20, we should come up for a retest of 42.50. And if we do break 42.50, we should go towards 43.15, the POC up there. As for the downside, my downside measurement is calling for this down move to terminate right around 39.30. So if we do get a drop towards 39.30, at which point we are going to have an excess of 9 points of a parabolic, or I should say 9 points of a dramatic move to the downside, definitely right around 39.30 we should find at least a short-term support for a bounce. As for gold, I was reading another extraordinary news, is that Americans in the last couple of months bought a record ever amount of gold. Record ever amount of gold. And when you hear that, then you can perfectly understand why is it that we crashed the way that we crashed. As I always say, you can kill Dracula with a silver bullet, and you can kill the Fed with gold. And gold is the biggest enemy of the Fed, because number one, when gold goes up, it's 2 thumbs down towards how much confidence there is in the Fed. When people start to shift their money from cash to gold, means they are very, very scared of what takes place moving forward. Number two, every dollar that comes into a coin or a bullion is money that is out of the bank accounts, and that's shrinkage of capital going into the banks, and no capital into the banks means that the banks cannot take your deposit and my deposit and then gamble with it in Wall Street. And three, the dollar is the gold is the antichrist of the dollar. If people start to hoard money into gold, that means they're gonna dump the dollar. And this is another thing that the Federal Reserve doesn't like to see. Therefore, there is no coincidence that as a huge amount of gold was bought by the public, this invisible hand made sure that they all lose their shirt and give them a very bad taste in their mouth for even having tried to do anything else besides putting the market into that nasty, smelly casino of the stock market and having dared to go buy gold. But I'm expecting with what took place in Paris, we should see a big spike up on Sunday. And since we are at a double top, double bottom support here, we should certainly see the possibility of a reversal back up, even if it is to come and retrace a little bit of this absolute catastrophic 110 points straight down. If we do break this low here of 1070, then I don't know what the reaction will be, because then we are so close to break below 1000, and it would be a fantastic victory for the Federal Reserve to make gold go below $1,000 to create a vast, massive amount of panic from the long side. But that hasn't been seen yet. So very interesting opening will take place on Sunday, full of outside events influencing and impacting all markets. One must be very, very careful because volatility will be off the chart. This was Reza with Profiletraders. Thank you for listening, and if you wish to learn market profile, you can get all my courses and 1 year to my trading room for $550 with a 30 days money back guarantee. Have a great weekend and be very safe.